So, a very good afternoon to everyone. So, first of all, I would like to give thanks to Camus, to the director, Mr. João Ribeiro, and to Your Excellency for organizing this program, and obviously Professor Farad Hassan for taking a great initiative for this, and of course for the generous introductions, Professor Subramanian. So at the very outset, I have a gift for Mr. Joa. So I would like to present in front of everyone, and I do believe that this gift is appropriate with these tagline that 50 years of diplomatic relations between India and Portugal. Obrigado. So you may open.
Thank you so much.
So it needs time, you know. So we can come in so that others will see. Okay.
Yes.
It's off. So I would like to request you to go to the first floor.
Shall I read it?
Yeah.
Perhaps I should read it or so that kind of make a fair, right?
Yeah, sure. Shall I?
Honoring 50 years of Indo-Portuguese relations. With profound respect and admiration for the long-standing friendship between India and Portugal, this miniature sheet is presented as a humble tribute to 50 years of re-established diplomatic relations between the two nations. It symbolizes not only our shared history, but also our mutual commitment to cultural cooperation, linguistic exchange, and the celebration of artistic heritage. As founder and director of La Casa de los Políglotas, Institute of Foreign Languages and Cultures, I am honored to present this token of appreciation to Mr. João Ribeiro, the director of Camões Portuguese Cultural Center, Embassy of Portugal in India, in recognition of his invaluable work in strengthening Indo-Portuguese cultural ties. Thank you so much. Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Okay. So this is this one. It has a release actually.
Okay, so beautiful. Okay.
So a stamp. I do believe that a stamp. It is also a part of history. You cannot move the stamp out of history. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Then. So I would like to start from the abstract of mind. So just a second. I have missed that page. Okay, I have got it. So the first European to establish a permanent presence in Bengal were the Portuguese, who left a rich cultural, religious, and commercial legacy that Satgaon, which is known as Adi Shaptogram, one of the original 7 villages along the Bhagirathi river system, was the site of early Portuguese penetration. A new chapter in the Lusophone presence in Bengal began in 1518 when Dijon de Silveira was dispatched as the first Portuguese official envoy to Bengal. This strengthened the diplomatic efforts in the eastern parts of the India subcontinent. Pedro Tavares obtained a firman from Akbar in the year 1579 between 80 that permitted settlement at Hooghly, the construction of churches and official trade privileges, while Afonso de Melo arrived in the early 16th century, establishing the first Portuguese foothold. So Portuguese churches are timeless representations of this culture. The Cathedral of the Most Holy Rosary at Murgihata, the year 1799 was constructed with the donations from patrons such as the Baroto brothers, reflecting Kolkata's colonial and cosmopolitan past, while the Basilica of the Holy Rosary at Bandel, 1599, dedicated to the Nossa Senhora do Rosario, so is one of the India's oldest Christian shrines. So language and the arts were also exchanged between the cultures. Numerous Portuguese terms, including in Bengali. So nowadays also we use those words and it's very interesting, like Shaban, Sabo. So janela, we in Portuguese, janela. Then fita, that's ribbon. Fite, we do say fite. Alcadrao, that alcadra, okay, that black peach. So there are several words, means I have just said only four, but there are many words, those who are still exist in Bengali language, those who believe that, that Bengali language is totally derived from Sanskrit, they have a wrong notions because it has the Persian, it has French, it has Portuguese and English, obviously. So uh, this is one of the most interesting and informative part which I have shared. Then after that, definitely there is another character who was a Luso-Indian, Antony Firingee, known as the Henchman Antony, who was a well-known poet and musician of Portuguese heritage. He was a staunch supporter of Ma Kali. Originally a Shiva temple, he restored the Firingee Kalibari on Bowbazar and installed an idol of Ma Siddheshwari Kali. So Firingee also rose to fame by combining Bengali folk traditions with European musical influences in Kovigan or improvised the poetic duels. Equally important was the culinary influence. The Portuguese introduced chana, a cheese making process which already we have missed in our lunch. It should be there, Rasogolla and Sandesh. So, which established the basic for famous Bengali desserts like these things. So, I'm going to start my presentations with Martin Alfonso de Melo Cusarete. So the last name itself, it defines that he was an army and well trained army. This surname it goes with in Portuguese, if I'm not wrong. So Rui was Pereira seized a Persian bull gallant in Chittagong, which is currently known as Chattogram in Bangladesh, which is located. So that was distinguished as a Portuguese. This incident later helped secure the release of Martin Alfonso de Melo after 2 years of captivity. In 1528, Martin Alfonso de Melo expeditions unexpectedly landed on the coast of Bengal. Alfonso de Melo's ship blown off course in a storm reached the Chakaria under the Durate Mendes, Vasco Concelos, and Juan Colheber. They were under the command of Durate Mendes, Vasco Concelos, and João Coelho, likely the same Coelho who had previously joined the Silveira in Chattogram. So Melo's ransom refused, like Hudavak Khan demanded more than captains offered. Yes. The Brahmins vowed to sacrifice the most handsome Portuguese if captured. They killed Alfonso de Melo's young nephew, Gonzalo Vaz de Melo, described as extremely promising and handsome. Alfonso de Melo founded the first Portuguese settlement in 1537 at Chattogram, formerly that Chattigam or Chittagong, as shown on De Barrow's map. As we know, those who are the historians over here, they know the important significance of the map of Barrows. Without that, you cannot mark the old areas in the history of Portuguese. So in 1529, that Khaja Shihabuddin ransomed Afonso de Melo for 3,000 cruzados and sent him to Goa along with his cousin Khaja Shekhar Ullah. So Diego Rebelo arrived at Sadgaon to free Martin Alfonso de Melo, sending a letter to the king of Gaur, threatening to seize ports if Portuguese prisoners were not released. Now, the forgotten Portuguese administrations of Hooghly. No proper record exists of the Portuguese system of government in Hooghly. Western India is well documented as Professor Subramanian, Professor Farooq already they narrated about that part, but Hooghly Portuguese history is nearly forgotten. So names of key Portuguese figures in Hooghly are largely lost. Only three governors, captains are known. Pedro Tavares, 1580, Miguel Rodriguez, so 1623, and Manuel the Azevedo, 1632. Now, Pedro Tavares, another important character in Hooghly and the birth of the Hooghly settlement. So, arrived in Sadgaon as a Portuguese captain experienced in politics and state affairs, visited Emperor Akbar at Agra with two Portuguese companions and several servants, like earned Akbar's favor due to his conduct and valor, received the valuable gifts, granted a farman allowing him to build a city in Bengal at his choice. So Portuguese received fully religious liberty, allowed to preach, build churches, and baptize with consent. Mughal officers instructed to provide materials for constructions of Portuguese houses. His wife's name appears in several altered forms across manuscript like Basurba, Nasurna, Nasunta. While some versions omit her entirely, Beveridge suggests her actual name might have been Azamta. So, although his remains the speculative, the Pedro Tavares who met Akbar in the year 1579 is clearly the same persons recorded as the Portuguese governor of Hooghly in the year 1580, showing that the Akbarnama and Manrique, as we know, Itinerario. So through that, we can go through this account. It is written, original version, it is written in Portuguese actually. So account match perfectly, and that Pratap that Firingee was indeed that Pedro Tavares. So this is a very interesting character which I have found through my reading, that Pratap Bar. You can understand through the name that Indian names, but the person it was Pedro Tavares, but there is a dilemma, there is a lot of confusion. So therefore the identifications made by the Blochman and Beveridge should be taken as a referring to one and the same individual, not to different person. Now, the real pictures, even these photos clicked by me, not taken from any from Google or the other sources. So Sadgaon. So now you can imagine. Now you can see the size of the river. It's very narrower now. So it was Porto Pequeño, and it was a very important port in the history of Portuguese in Bengal. Very, very important, because they created the two important ports. One which was in Bangladesh, that is in Chattogram, Porto Grande, and this one it was a Porto Pequeño. So one of the earliest Portuguese settlements in Bengal along the Saraswati River, Sadgaon, currently known as a Adi Saptagram. You can see the photos of the railway station as well. So until the mid 16th century, large ships could sail up to the Sadgaon with their goods. During Akbar's, the port generated an income of about, well, you can say that dams, which you can see as a copper, small copper coins, like equally or to roughly that 30,000, you can say. Okay. So Hooghly founded by the Portuguese, like 1579 to 1580, when Hooghly was founded, the name Hooghly itself derived from Hogla. Hogla, it's basically a type of long grass that grows along the river sides. So the previous photo you can see and the current you can see the railway stations of Hooghly. Now this map, it's very interesting. Can you see it properly, all those names? Very small, no? Okay. So just I'm reading them that Hooghly, apart from Hooghly, that Chinsura, Bandel, Banki Bazar, Barakpur, Gireti. So these places were very important at that era. Even nowadays as well, these places are very important. Even Khalishani was there, Gondolpara was there, but Khalishani, Gondolpara, these places under the French colonialism, means like Chandannagar. So now the most interesting part about the churches built by the Portuguese in Bengal. Here is the list of the churches like Basilica of the Holy Rosary Bandel, Nossa Senhora do Rosario, Cathedral of the Most Holy Rosary Murgihata, the Church of Our Lady of Dolors, that Boitokhana, it is located in College Street area, Kolkata. Nossa Senhora de Dores, Churches of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, which is located in Dharmatala, New Market. Now there are other many important churches, but I know that there is very time significant, so we have to accomplish this thing within 20 minutes. So that's why I have chosen the most four important churches, not all. So, founded in 1599 by Manuel Tavares under a firman of Akbar, foundation stone laid on 15th August, the feast of Assumptions. So, convent dedicated to the Saint Nicholas of Tolentino, church dedicated to Our Lady by Our Lady of Rosary, originally convent burned in 1632 during the Portuguese retreat. Portuguese returned under Shah Jahan's Farman in 1633, as we know, and re-established the settlement at present Bandel, not the original Hooghly site it was actually. So re-erections of the convent like by John Gomes de Soto around 1640, inscriptions of 1661 mentioned, but probably marks date of inscription, not construction. Now, this photo I took in the year 2007. So now it has changed a little bit. So Portuguese granted the administrative and judicial rights over Bandel lands. So prior exercised these rights until 1797. So landing originally 777 bigas, now reduced to 380 bigas, yielding rupees 1240 per annum at that time. So construction's expansion in 1676 interrupted by Moors demanding payment, exact details debated. Ransacked in 1756 by Siraj-Dowlah, including the destructions of 1757 documents. Oldest Christians convent and church in Bengal central to Portuguese religious and commercial activities. Now Murgihata Church. So oldest Portuguese church in Calcutta, originally established on a plot given by Job Charnock in the year 1690 at the site of the old fort, temporary chapel built by Augustinians using wood, mud, mats and straw. First place of Christian worship in Calcutta. So chapel pulled down in 1693 by Sir John Goldsborough due to the concerns over Portuguese influence, rebuilt in 1700 in Murgihata as a big chapel by the Portuguese, expanded in 1720 under directions of Fray Francisco de Assumpção, funded by Mrs. Sebastian Shaw and other Catholics. So ransacked in 1756 again during Siraj-ud-Dowlah attacks and escaped the major destruction. Taken over by English 1757 to 1760. So for Protestant services, Roman Catholic worship temporarily interdicted. Portuguese later regained the church after council intervention. So current Murgihata church construction began 12 March 1797, initiated by Augustinian vicar Fray Joachim. The Santa Rita and the Barato brothers consecrated on 21st November 1797 to Our Lady of Rosario, which cost around 90,000 Sikka rupees, so 30,000 from church revenues. Rest by the subscriptions of Barotus covered shortfall. Noble endowments, so Baroto family count the John uh, Lackersting, Mrs. Rita Griffiths, Mrs. Philadelphia Bonaparte. Monuments and tombs, Mrs. M. Tench, Mrs. E. Shaw and Barrow family, Archbishop Patrick Carew, Archbishop Goethals, and some monuments date back to the 1712. So this is a church actually of Murgihata. You can see the recent photo of this church. Now, Church of Our Lady of Dolors, that Boitok Khana. So Portuguese Catholics first settled in Murgihata and later moved to the Boitok Khana as a Calcutta expanded this area, become a part of the European quarter. Need for a church near Boitok Khana aroused as Murgihata Church was far Louis Barreto initially proposed it in 1804 but died before the execution. Project continued by Mrs. Grace Elizabeth with Portuguese gentlemen Diogo Pereira, Joseph Pereira, so Philip Leal, and Charles Cornelius. So foundation stone laid in 13th June 1809, consecrated 30 June 1810 by Reverend Fray Francisco dos Araceres. So dedicated to Nossa Senhora de Dores, Our Lady of Dolors. So Mrs. Grace Elizabeth funded the church, providing land and building funds. She retained right to present the vicar. So first vicar, that Augustinian Fray Antonio de Padua church remains under Portuguese Augustinians missions and Diocese of Mylapore. During the Padrado dispute, English missions attempted to take over Bishop Saint Lega interdicted church in 1835, later under Portuguese bishops of Mylapore uh, in the year 1887 that conquered it. So you can see the image of the church. This is a current photo of that particular church. Now, Church of the Sacred Heart of Jesus.
Can we wrap this up a little quickly? Because,
1 minute.
Yeah.
So, founded by Mrs. Pascua Barreto y Souza, grandmother of Sir Walter de Souza, in fulfillment of a vow made after her son Luis de Souza was tried in the year 1821 for injuring Joseph Gonzalez, promised to build a church if he was acquitted. Foundation stone laid 12 February 1832 by Mrs. De Souza. Ceremony conducted by Reverend Fray Simão de Conceição, vicar of Boitokhana Church, consecrated Easter Sunday, the 30th March 1834 by Fray Antonio Assumpção, provisor of Bishop of Mylapore, dedicated to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. So I'm just ending by showing this picture at the fag end, that construction and expenses by Mrs. Serif built the church of total cost over 2 lakh Sikka rupees, including the land bills, vestments, furnitures, and cemetery in Entali, which is located.
Thank you.
Obrigado. Now you can understand from where this La Casa de los Políglotas inspired. If you go through it, then you can understand the idea where it comes
Okay.
from.
Thank you.
Obrigado. Thank you.